Welcome back, Unapologetic, and I'm honored to welcome the one, the only, my guest today, Tiffany Powell. Tiffany is the co-founding broker of the Atlanta office of SERHANT, a firm that is changing the game in real estate. She's known for helping buyers and investors make strategic moves even in today's market. So without further ado, I would like to go ahead and bring in Tiffany P. Money Powell. What's up, Tiff?
How you doing, E King? Thank you for having me.
I'm good. Just so that you know, because this is a family affair. Tiffany is also my sister-in-law. She is my brother Powell, brother Pat Powell's wife. So she took her a little bit of time out to spend with me. They have three beautiful children, and so I know her life is wild. So she took a little time to spend with me. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Of course, I'm happy to be here.
All right. So let's start off from the top. So this concept of wealth building. So from my standpoint, so I am a mental health provider, and frequently when I'm talking with people about money, what I know is how they are socialized to money and how they view money. So from my end, I am dealing with the emotional aspect and sometimes the economic trauma of money. From your end, you're dealing with the people who are traumatized. So what do you say to buyers when you see that they have this mindset, who feel prices are, for the most part, out of their reach, even if that may not be the case from your end?
You really have to. I encourage them to get in the game. However possible, whatever you have to do to get in the game, get in the game. Because real estate, number one, if you think about real estate investing, or even if it's your primary residence versus like the stock market, stocks are going to go up and down. Crypto is going to go up and down. But as far as real estate concerned, I don't care, everybody always has to have somewhere to live. So you cannot live in the stock market, you can't live on a stock. So homes are a solid investment. And if you look at real estate, from a micro perspective, the real estate will fluctuate. It will go up and down. But if you look back 100 years, from a macro perspective, every 7 years, real estate always appreciates. And it truly is the great, it's the best way for people to start closing that wealth gap.
Okay.
Especially if you are strategic with where you purchase, because equity is free money.
You got that right. Because over the past 5 years, 2020, homes have increased in their equity 40%, which basically means if you bought a house in 2020 during the pandemic, and now you got, like you said, that 40% is that free money. All you were doing was living. When Joy and I first bought our first house, we had a really good realtor or agent or whatever have you. So because it was so stressful, she and I began to argue. And so he stopped us from pretty much arguing. When you're working because at that present moment, we were at a very high stress, time. Now when you hear all of the stuff that is going in, so I couldn't imagine. So if Joy and I were on 3, right? So that means now going to buy a house, we're on 10. When you're looking at those people and you're trying to convince them what they're doing is a great investment, what type of mind shift ideas do you use in order to help them understand what they're doing is beneficial to them 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Right. So first of all, I will tell you, I have broken up many a domestic dispute, okay? And I will also typically tell you that the wife usually wins, which you probably learned firsthand.
Yeah, I was wrong.
Listen, my husband just gave up. I'm a real estate broker, and the wife, he was like, whatever you want. I'm fine. I am fine. But so before I went into real estate, my background is actually in engineering.
Okay.
So I was an industrial engineer for 5 years before I went into real estate. And so at heart, I'm a data nerd.
Okay.
So I always take it back to the numbers. So if we're getting emotional about something and we're trying to decide, especially if this is for an investment property too,
Right.
because an investor doesn't care. They're not going to be emotionally attached to a property. They're emotionally attached to their bank account.
Right.
So we look at the data. We
Right.
look at the data. We look to see, what has been selling in an area. We look to see how we can add value to a property so that we can fast track that appreciation.
Right.
But I always take it back to the numbers so that
Okay.
we can try not to fight about it. Now, sometimes I don't have a degree in psychology, so I do what I can do. But
1 plus
we look
1
at the
equals
data.
2, right? Every time, no matter what.
Sometimes it doesn't.
All right. So you are in Atlanta right now. So let's talk about your region. So which region or types of property offer the best opportunities for the first time buyers or investors? So I know your company is based in headquarters in New York.
Headquarters are in New York, yes.
Right. So if we're looking at regions, and my two listeners, because I only got two, I got Joy and Joy's grandmother. That's all that listen to the show. So for my two,
We're going to provide some good value to them today.
for my two listeners, what region or types of property for that first time home buyer or that investor? What are some regions?
So, Atlanta is unique, I think, in that we are a city that we're like a mid-level, like we're not New York, right? We're not Miami, but we are a city that we're seeing grow in real time.
Okay.
Like anyone is here, you can't drive, a quarter of a mile without seeing a construction crew, a crane, or something being built. Development is everywhere. So, there's a few things that you want to look for. Like, I would look for one, areas that are being gentrified. There's
Right.
always going to be there's always going to be opportunities in areas that are being gentrified. Now I'll tell you, some of those are getting snatched up pretty quickly, but there's opportunities there because it's not priced out. We're not priced out of those areas yet. If you see like an empty shopping center, and then you're paying attention to what's going on in the city, you're looking at the business journals, and you're like, oh, they're going to put a Publix there, or there's going to be a Starbucks there, and there's nothing there yet. That's a good time to get in, because that those are going to be like cornerstone developments where when those go in, wealth starts building up around it. People start buying up property around those areas. Specifically in Atlanta, we have the Beltline, which has really transformed the city. So the Beltline is, I think it's about 50 miles, but it's a whole walking trail around the perimeter of the city that it's going to change access and, just allow for better lifestyle for people who have access to it. It also helps with traffic too, which is a big issue that we have here. But anything in and around the Beltline is going to be valuable and maintain its value. And right now we're seeing like the north side and the east side trails are being built, but on the west side, which tends to be our side, those trails haven't quite, they're not finished yet. So there's still plenty of opportunity.
Okay.
And I think getting in, when you have the idea in your head to get in, it's time to get in, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the prices in this city is going to look very different.
So this idea that look for the cranes. So that was the first thing I heard. Secondly, look for the concept of growth. So not only the big buildings, but just anything that's going in. And also, are we still looking at big box areas, or is that going away now? So back in the day, we used to create a community around the strip mall, right? And so that concept of big box, if you have that community, then that means people are going to come. Are we still looking at that, or has that changed?
I think it depends on the big box. I think that there are some that are tried and true, and those have been in existence for a long time. But I also think that strip malls are struggling right now.
Yeah.
Stores, like, stores are struggling. Brick and mortar businesses and stores are struggling right now,
Okay.
and so it really would just depend on the location. But the other thing to look for too, and you really have to look for these things. I mean, they're not readily available. I have investors calling me all the time, like, "Do you have anything off market? Do you have anything coming up?" But you want to look for properties where you can add value. So let's say you see a neighborhood that's got some really great houses all around, and you see people are outside walking, it's family friendly, or whatever it is that's valuable to the neighborhood. And then you see like a house that's maybe not so big, or maybe it looks run down or whatever. If you can add value, and not just in like fixing it up,
Right.
but can you take a carport and enclose it and make like another bedroom and bathroom?
Gotcha.
Can you a house not far from us down the street, because in Atlanta there's a lot of old houses. There's a lot of houses that were built in like, the from like the 30s to the 60s, like they're old kind of ranch red brick houses. What some investors are doing is taking those houses and blow the roof off and add a second story.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they will change the facade, and all of a sudden you've got, not all of a sudden, but you've gone from a house that is like this. You've gone from a house that's an old red brick house to like a modern two-story home that they've added an additional like 1,500 square feet. And
Wow.
what you can do is it's called the Burr method, where and I tell all your listeners to Google this, the Burr method, BRRR, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. And so you are purchasing a house, you're adding value to the house, then you rent it out, and you can refinance and pull your money out and you put it into your next property. But
Okay.
it's good if you can hold
So that
hold on
stack.
to the properties.
So
Yes,
the
yes. So
stack.
tell
So
everybody to Google that.
yeah,
Burr
yeah.
method.
Burr method. BUR. How many R's? Three.
BRRR.
There you go. BRRR. All right.
There may
Cool.
be one more Burr. Burr.
So one thing you did talk about was this concept of well, I think we used to call it pocket listing. You call it something different. As an investor, and I'm very small, right? So I'm a small investor, and although the Burr method allows me to scale up to multiple properties, I still got to get that first property. So if I have someone that I know, such as you or someone else, how do I get into this pocket listing thing or this unlisted thing? Because I hear a lot of properties are sold in that way. So how would someone get in on that?
A lot of people are, it is boots on the ground. It
Okay.
is really searching. I mean, because there's only going to be so many properties that are listed in the MLS.
Right.
But like a pocket listing is a listing that is, it's listed by an agent, but they don't want to put it in the MLS. So we usually see something like that.
Okay.
Maybe it's like a high-end property and they don't want a lot of traffic, or maybe they don't want people to know they're selling. They don't want a sign in the yard, that whole thing. But and that's the same for like an off-market listing. But what we're looking for, and when you're looking for an investment property, you want to find something. Maybe the sellers didn't even know they wanted to sell. Maybe you look for a house where there's not a lot of upkeep outside, and that could be a sign of a distressed seller
Right.
who needs help. And so
Right.
if you come knocking on their door, or there's websites that you can subscribe to where you can get the contact information for these people. Sometimes it may be somebody who lives out of town. Like maybe you'll see a house that it's like, okay, somebody's grandmama lived in the house and they passed away and there's nobody there local. So the person who's in charge lives like in another state. And you're actually helping them out by contacting them and saying, I can take this property off your hands.
Wow.
And
Okay.
it may be somebody who can't afford if they can't afford to mow the grass, then they may not be able to afford to pay their taxes. There are a lot of people who are in distressed situations right now. So it really just is about making phone calls, keeping your eyes peeled when you're out in the streets, looking at neighborhood, looking at houses, and then taking the initiative to contact those people.
So if I look from that standpoint, the first thing that pops in my head is, so I've been lied to. So what are some of the more, right? Because if it's MLS is, from what I'm told, is the thing. What I hear from you is you got to put a little bit work into it. There's also areas by which individuals, want to sell but may not be listing. So I need to build my network better, and I need to be more active. So what are some common misconceptions that people have from investing in real estate? So we hear a lot of it. So what are the misconceptions? What are the top 2 or 3?
I would say, first of all, it's not easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we watch all these shows. We watch these shows. Now, I'm saying this as a person who's opened a brokerage whose show is on Netflix right now. Okay, so shout out to Owning Manhattan. If you season 2 is coming out, watch,
Right.
right? And we watch these shows. We
Uh-huh.
watch Million Dollar Listing, and we think that it's easy and that it's sexy, and it's not.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you walk into a property that needs work, prepare yourself that it's going to need work.
Right.
But the uglier it is, the stinkier it is,
Right.
then the more value you're going to be able to add, and the more money that you're going to be
Okay.
able to make. And then the other thing too is that, and I don't know if this is more like a misconception or maybe just a mistake or something to be aware of, but you always have to allocate more funds to a renovation than what you really need.
Right.
Because, and I mean, up to 50% more, I would say.
Okay.
I would say make sure, because things pop up that, you may go and say, okay, I'm going to do a renovation, and I see that it's just cosmetic stuff. It really just needs,
Right.
like, take out the carpet, put some LVP in, or, take down this old wallpaper, or paint, change the fixtures. And then you get in and you don't know that there's piping stuff. You don't know that there could be stuff with electricity or anything. So before anything is purchased, you want to make sure that you have a very good inspection.
Yeah.
Very good
So
inspection.
if you $100,000 of renovation, so that's $150,000 if we look at it from a 50% standpoint.
Absolutely.
So if we first time, first generation homeowners still exists despite all of the advances that we have in, federal programs, some of the, banks that has to get rid of certain, funds, even with the housing boom and bust that happened recently over the past, 15 years. So first generation homeowners still exist to help them think differently about wealth building, and not just simply owning a home. How do you coach them in doing that?
So, we go back to the numbers, right? We go back to the numbers. I had some clients who purchased a house, and this is where, of course, you need to have an agent who knows what they're doing,
Right.
right? Have somebody who can truly advise you and know what they're doing. We go back to the numbers, but I'll show people on paper, yes, you're really having to maybe sacrifice to make this down payment or get this closing cost, or call your mama or call your grandmama or whoever can help
Call
you,
your
right?
people. Call your people.
Call somebody, whoever you got to call. But it's worth it,
Yeah.
because if your property has appreciated, I mean, here in Atlanta, I mean, you may get 10% appreciation year over year. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I
10%
mean,
in 1 year
that's
is
just
a big
crazy.
deal.
Because if
Yeah.
you look at it from a 5-year standpoint, right? So you look at kids, that first 5 years and that second, that's a lot. That's a growth there. And so, like you said earlier, that's free money there.
It's free. It is free money, and it's your money. I mean, and sometimes I think that people don't recognize that they have money in a property. Like, if your mama has been in her house for 30 years and she's just sitting on it and never done anything, she's probably got money in that property that you
Man.
could pull out and invest. You could invest together. If you, let's say you've got 3 friends and you all want to invest together, create an LLC, all be equal members of it. You guys can purchase the home together. You don't have to do it on your own.
Amen.
But I just encourage people, you gotta get in the
Amen.
game.
Yes.
You
All
gotta
right.
get in the game.
So let's get practical right now, right? So you're a numbers person. I'm a mental person. And I'm always telling people through numbers, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3. All right, let's get practical. So for someone who is, what should be their first move in today's market in order to buy or invest in 2025, 2025 and 2026, I guess. So what should they do?
I mean, you want to obviously make sure that your credit is good.
Credit.
You want to make sure your credit is good.
Mm-hmm.
You want to pay down any debt
Okay.
because, and you want to have some reserves. You want to have some reserves because you can't get into this and do this if you don't have any money. Because if you end up with a big repair, like let's say you have like for instance, during during Helene, our basement flooded during Helene, and we don't even live in a flood zone.
Right, right.
But there was so
I remember
much.
that.
There was so much rain
Right.
that our basement flooded, and it was a $10,000. We had to pay $10,000 just to get the water out of our basement.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, to bump it
I mean,
out.
this doesn't even include like putting it back together, drywall, and putting the bathroom back together. That's just cash, right?
Right.
So you want to make sure that you have reserves so that one instance, one storm, one tree fall, something like that does not just completely derail you. And then now you're looking at a foreclosure situation.
I like it.
So you want to make sure you have your credit together. You want to make sure that you have reserves. You want to pay down debt because these are all things too that are going to get you better interest rates.
Yes.
So it's going to cost you less.
All right. So the top three that I got is credit, right? Improve credit. Number 2 is pay down your debt. And number 3 is have a cash reserve. So if we're looking at practical steps, this is how you begin. So that's getting your house in order. Once you have your house in order, what would be like a B level step to go?
So the next thing is I would, you can go it alone, but if somebody has never purchased a house before, you need a realtor. You need somebody who can guide you because there are a lot of pitfalls in the process. And again, I think a lot of people watch these shows and they're like, or you see people who are like experts, right? And you're like, I don't need to do this. I don't need to pay an agent, or I don't, whatever. But then you don't realize that maybe you're skipping that part because you think that you don't need to invest in those fees. But then, if I see somebody who is coming and they don't have an agent, my shark fin. Do you see the shark fin on my back? Oh, you
about
don't
to eat
have
them
an
up.
agent?
You gonna eat them up?
Okay, bet. Let's go. So, you're going to end up costing yourself
More money.
more in the long run. You could lose your earnest money deposit if you don't understand how to read contracts.
Right.
You could really cost yourself a lot of money.
Okay.
So I would get an expert.
Okay. So get an expert. All right.
Yes.
Anything else before you close out? So what I got is technically we got 4. We got get your credit right, pay down your bills, right? Get that right. Have some cash, get you some reserves, and then lastly, find you someone that talks smarter than you.
Yeah, exactly. Find somebody who knows what they are.
I always find the smart people. Right.
Please, that's what I do. If you're the smartest person in the room, then you need to go to another room.
You need to go to another. Amen to that. All right.
Yes.
Anything else to give this to my 2 listeners? So shout out to Joy.
Hello, Joy. You know what? I would just say again, just get in the game. Like, stay encouraged. Sometimes it can take. You depending on what market you're in, you may have to submit 2, 3, 4 offers on a property before you find the right one.
Okay.
But it is worth it, and this can change the game for you, for your children, for if you have parents that you need to take care of who need your help, because again, it's free money. And if you have a renter who's in a property, you're getting your free money because one, they're paying down your mortgage.
Exactly.
And then also your property is increasing in value.
Exactly.
So
that free money.
Free money. It's the FM strategy. You heard it here first.
I love it. Free money strategy. All right. Well, thank you so much. So where can the people connect with you? I know that you are on all the social medias, but which one do you want the people to actually reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm very active on Instagram. That's my
Okay.
favorite place to hang out. So on Instagram, I'm Tiffany Powell ATL.
Okay. Tiffany Powell,
Yes,
ATL. Well, Tiff, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you
of
for bringing
course.
clarity and all that real estate stuff and also helping my two listeners, get to where they need to be. Any other
I'm
message before we?
happy to help. Thank you for having
No
me. And
problem.
remember, your wife is always right.
She's always right. Yes, this is true. All right. Well, we're going to jump off. And thank you so much, Tiff. I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. And once we come back from our break, we're going to recap everything that was said. This is Unapologetic on WOVU 95.9 FM.